In this video, we will learn about forms in ReactJS. So let's get started. We are going to understand how we can handle the form using the different ways that are provided in ReactJS. So there are two ways to handle the forms. First one is a controlled component and second one represents the uncontrolled component. First of all, we will understand the controlled components. We will understand this with the help of an example. So first of all, the user interacts with the form input element by entering or changing its value. Whenever the user changes the input value or types in the input, it triggers a change event that initiates a flow to update the component's state. This function, that is the event handler, this event handler is responsible for capturing the new value from the input element and determines how to handle it. And it is invoked each time there is a change in the input. The change handler can perform any checks or any operations necessary with the updated input value before moving on to the updated state. So after checking the input, this step validates the input value if required and updates the component state with the new value. The component state is mutated to hold the latest value in the input. And this is where the input value is stored for re-rendering the component. So once the value is updated, React re-renders the component and displays the updated value in the form input element. This makes the input element's value in sync with the component's state. Let's implement the same with the help of an example. We will create a component as form handling.js. First of all, we will do it with a class component. So all we need is RCC to get the template. Now we are going to create the form here in the JSX. We require a form tag. We need a username, and this will be represented with the help of an input type equals to text. Same way, we are also going to have another form field, that is comments, where we are going to put a text area. So now we got two form fields. And we also need one submit button. Let's say it's button type equals to submit. And the text we want is submit. As already discussed, in order to work with controlled components in form handling, we require event handlers. For working with event handlers, we require state. We need to set the initial state and then change the state. For this, we need a constructor. We need the super keyword. These concepts were already discussed in the previous videos. First, we are going to set the initial state. So in order to change the values within these fields, we require some initial state. So for username, the initial state I'm taking as an empty string. And for comments is also it's the empty string. So means that whenever the user is loading the web page, that time the user will be able to see empty text boxes and empty text area. Now for changing the state, we require the event handlers. So first of all, we are going to create a handler for the change in value in the username. So let's create handle username equals to an arrow function, we will set the state. It's a function that accepts the object. The username should be set to. Alright, so now here we need a parameter called as event parameter. You can represent it as E or event. The event here represents the change event triggered when the user types in the input field. And this event contains the details about the input action, including the current value of the input. So now all that is required is the value should be set to event.target.value. The event.target refers to the input field, and while the dot value will give its content, or you can say will give its current value. In the same way, we also require the function for changing the value inside the comments. So I'll change the name of the function to handle comments and the property to comments. Now we need to specify these functions inside the form elements. So we need to trigger it on onChange event. OnChange event will help us in changing the value inside the form element. So all we need to now do is use this keyword and handle username, and same for the text area onChange. OnChange equals to this dot handle comments. Now we also need to capture the value. For capturing the value, we need the value attribute. In order to show the value in the value attribute, we need JSX, and we can write this dot state dot username. And for showing the value in the text area inside the JSX, we need this dot state dot comments. Let's handle the submission now by using onSubmit. OnSubmit equals to, we need now a submit handler. For that, we can create handle submit function. It's an arrow function. And we can generate an alert. We can simply display the name as well as the comments together. So we are going to use backticks, use dollar symbol, this dot state dot username for fetching the username, and this dot state dot comments for fetching the comments. So this would show us on the browser, and use it in the onSubmit event handler, this dot handle submit. Also, let's render the component form handling. Let's check the browser. We are able to get two text boxes, and if I write anything inside this and click on submit, we are able to get the values, and when you click OK, you will see that the form gets submitted. So if you want to avoid submitting the form, you can prevent the default functionality by using an event parameter and use event.prevent_default. This will prevent the form from submitting, and you will be able to retain the values. So when I click submit and click OK, so you will see that your form does not get submitted and the values are retained. Let's consider another scenario where you have multiple form elements. Right now you're having just two, but there may be a possibility that you're having two or more than two form elements. Then in that case, do you need to handle the input change separately? So the answer is no, that you can also resolve this by using just one function. So we can very easily delete these two functions and instead use a common function that is going to handle the input change. We are going to use the destructuring syntax const name comma value equals to event.target, and this dot set state to the object name as value. Okay, so let's understand that what exactly we have done here. Here we are using the destructuring to extract the name and value properties from event.target. And event.target, as already discussed, this refers to the input element where the change has occurred. And name is the name attribute of the input element, and value is the current value entered in the input field. The same function will be used in both these fields, handle input change. Now we also require the name attribute that we are utilizing here. The name attribute will be specified as name equals to username for the first one, and for text area as well we require name equals to comments. Let's check out on the browser. We type something, so we are able to fetch the values. So this way also you can handle the change in the input fields by simply specifying one function. This is how we handle the forms in ReactJS with the help of controlled components. So in this, your ReactJS itself is controlling the components with the help of event handlers. But right now we discussed it only by using class components. Now let's proceed to the function components. Let's create our function component, and we require this form tag and comment the previous component. So we got our form here. In order to change the state, we need the useState. So we are also going to import useState from React. We are going to create two state variables, username and one function in order to handle the change. The initial state will be an empty string. Same way, we also require a second variable to handle the comments, the change in the comments, and we now require set comments as the function that will change the state. The initial state will be an empty string. So we also require the two functions. Let's say handle username set username. So since the set username is responsible for changing the state, we are using set username and its value should be set to event.target.value. Pass the parameter event. Same way, another one, handle comments, pass the parameter, set comments to event.target.value. Now certain changes are required. The first change will be that we need to delete the this keyword and use the name of the function, that is handle username, and same way for the comments, handle comments. Make the changes everywhere wherever it's required. Handle username, and this is handle comments. The value is username and the another value is comments. Let's also submit by using this handle submit. We need to remove this keyword and use the handle submit function generate the alert by using the backticks and template literal dollar and fetch the value of username, fetch the value of comments. And if you like, you can also use event.prevent default in order to prevent the default functionality of the submit button. Let's take a look on the browser. Okay, so we got an error. It's useState. We are required to use useState. By mistake, it's useState, and here also we need useState. Now let's check the result. We hope to get a proper result now. Right, so we are getting the correct result. Now again, if you want that you only need one function instead of generating multiple functions to handle the change in the form elements, then you can simply use just one state variable, const use form data as the variable and set form data as the function that will handle the change. useState, the initial value will be an empty object. Now we need to use the empty object instead of empty string. So for the username, it will be empty string value. For the comments also, it will be an empty string value. Now instead of using these two functions, we can create just one function. Use handle input equals to use the function, use the destructuring assignment name comma value in order to extract the name and value from event.target, and use set form data in order to change the state, set the object. So something that doesn't change will be returned as such using the spread operator as form data, while the values that got changed, the name should be set to value. The form data represents the previous state, while the name property set to value indicates the state that has been changed. Now we need to change the functions here to handle input, and here also change to handle input, and the value should be changed to form data dot username and form data dot comments. Change the alert values to form data dot username and form data dot comments. So you can see that form data actually represents a variable which is an object. So that's why username and comments represent the properties of this form data. Let's take a look on the browser. So we write something and we are able to fetch the values. This is all for this video. In the next video, we will learn to implement the uncontrolled components in React. And also we will understand the difference between controlled component and uncontrolled components.